Dónal Foreman, you're very welcome to Australia by the magic of Zoom and technology, and congratulations on a fantastic film.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Dónal, so I suppose we should start at the beginning. What was it that it grabbed you about the story of Granuaile that made you want to make a film about it?
Well, I guess, yeah, I'd been thinking for years that I'd like to do something around Granuaile, and I wasn't sure what would be a good way to approach it, because I wasn't really interested in trying to do a traditional historical epic and trying to like fully recreate or speculate about what her life was like, and I couldn't have afforded to do that anyway. But the more I kind of read about her and read the history and the stories around it, what I got fascinated by was how it's like every century, every generation, new meanings were put on her. Her story kept getting told and retold in different ways to suit different people. And there wasn't a lot of hard facts at the core of it. And the facts and the myth have all gotten kind of confused together over the years. So trying to explore like those different layers of around her was what got me kind of most excited about the history. And then I ended up coming up with an idea to have a American filmmaker who comes to Ireland to research a film about her and use that kind of frame as a way to explore the history.
And how did the film develop in terms of your writing? I was thinking about kind of process of writing a script and then developing a script. Was it something that was quite concise, or was it something that took place over a longer period of time?
It was quite an unconventional process on this, because the film was funded by the Irish Arts Council through this new scheme they have called Authored Works, which is they kind of fund one film every year that is what they called authored cinema, or some kind of like art house author approach. And they give, when they fund artists, they give a lot of creative freedom. So when I applied to them for funding, I didn't have a script. I had about a 6-page outline that was more about the general feel of it and the kind of the emotions the characters would go through than a lot of details. And on the back of that, they took a chance and gave me the funding. So then I developed the script in a similar way to how I did on my first feature, Out of Here, which is that I had an outline. I then fleshed out my 6 pages to maybe like a 30-page detailed outline. And then I worked with the actors. I cast the actors and I worked with them for several weeks in a kind of rehearsal, workshop, improvisation process, where we would try things out. I would go home and write scenes, then we'd do the scenes the next day. And that's how the script came about. But prior to that, I had done a lot of research. I read pretty much everything that's out there on Granuaile, and did location scouting around Achill and Clare Island where we shot. So I was coming into that with a lot of materials and a lot of ideas that I'd collected over the previous couple of years.
Very good. Yeah, I know. You say that lots of people are constantly interested in Granuaile. I know my friend Anya Turrell from County Clare, who's based up in northern New South Wales, has a couple of songs about Granuaile and pirates in general. But yes, certainly, I think her legend continues to grow. So you mentioned that you had the cast and that you were rehearsing with the cast and actually writing. So was that just Dale and Judith, Dale Dickey and Judith Roddy, or did you have a couple of more? Asked.
I spent the most time with Dale and Judith, but we did get our supporting actors, Andrew Bennett, Killian Roche, Fionn Walton, Rebecca Gannan. They all came in for a few days. They didn't have as many scenes, but yeah, they were all part of that process as well. Yeah,
that's fantastic. I don't know if so that was the first bursary of its kind from the Arts Council. Yeah, I'm not familiar with a similar scheme in Australia. I think Australia is very focused on film as commerce, and I think it's one of the good things. I don't even. I'm pretty sure there's no equivalent of the Irish Film Institute even in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of great work over the last few years. They've got a few schemes for films and a lot of really interesting documentaries, experimental films, fiction films have been coming out of those Arts Council grants. So they're really filling a gap that wasn't being filled before, I think.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned somewhere along the way Queenu Arthur Leary, a film by Bob Quinn, and you also mentioned Budawani being made on Clare Island. But I noticed in your notes that Bob Quinn actually has a part. Do you want to just say a little bit about film within a film? I suppose was what made me think of.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bob Quinn's work is really important to me, and that whole generation of the first wave Irish filmmakers, which I think not enough younger filmmakers in Ireland are aware of these days. But their work was very important to me, and yeah, when I knew that I was approaching this and I was shooting on Clare Island, I rewatched Budawani, which I think is the only other feature film shot on Clare Island. Bob also shot a documentary there in 1969, which is probably the first ever film made on Clare Island. And it was only actually when I was already preparing and researching the film that I finally saw Queen Art O'Leary, which I'd only read about, and realized how in tune it was with the kind of ideas that I was playing around with. So yeah, it was great that we were able to get Bob to graciously come out to Clare Island to do a little cameo and add to it. But I think, yeah, the film within the film thing, it can be a kind of cliche and a self-conscious thing, and I didn't want to make a film that's all about making films. There's not a lot in there that's really about the kind of process of kind of production or editing or directing actors, or the kind of nuts and bolts. I was more interested in the idea of the film within the film being a way to think about how Granuaile is getting retold and reinterpreted. That it's a very visual way to think about how we keep turning her into one image after another in our own image. And also, like, the other layer in the film, as well as this historical stuff, is that both of the main characters are dealing with very heavy grief in their lives, and kind of grief and loss is a big theme in there. And so I was also thinking about how we try to process and make sense of grief, and one of the ways of doing that is through art and through trying to put your energies into something creative. So I think the main character, played by Dale Dickey, is someone who's really like, she just plows into this creative project as a way of coming to terms with the death of her mother, which is what she's overcome with at the start of the film.
So work that I'm familiar with your work Out of Here, which we screened actually in 2015, but was quite a conventional feature film, and then your other film, the Image You Missed, is quite a very different style, an essayist film, and now Cry of Granuaile is another style. What was it influenced you to choose this new visual style?
Well, I think making that the documentary, my last film, The Image You Missed, kind of opened up a lot of new filmmaking techniques for me, because before that I'd mostly just done fiction films, and tended towards quite kind of realistic observational films. And in that documentary, as you say, it's got a kind of essay film form. There's a lot of voiceover, there's a lot of archival, there's a lot of cutting back and forth from past and present. So a lot of that was things that I hadn't done before, and it was a great challenge to kind of be outside of my comfort zone like that. And so I think I brought some of that experience into then going back to fiction with this film, and it has a few of those kind of essay elements with little bits of archival and different voiceovers. And yeah, that was something that I was really excited to play around with. And I suppose I've always liked the idea that a film, as well as, you have like character arcs planned out, how the characters might change throughout the film. But I also really like having a visual arc, that you have a sense of the visuals, the style, the atmosphere change throughout the film. And even in Out of Here, I did that a little bit, but it's more subtle. But with this, I thought it would be really interesting to basically have a film that completely changes styles from the beginning to end. It's like it takes you on a journey almost into a different film by the end. And it was also, again, thinking about how am I going to approach this history. So I knew I wanted to delve into, some of the historical stuff when we do get into like elements of period costume and the historical settings, but do it in a way that was kind of playful and mad.
Yeah, just talking about visual styles, you shot on 16mm film. Do you want to say a little bit about why you decided to do that?
Yeah, we shot on Super 16 film, which was a great privilege to be able to do. And I realized like a lot of my influences, the films that I was inspired by visually for this were films from the 70s and 80s. A lot of surreal films like the work of Raul Ruiz, great Chilean filmmaker, or psychological thrillers like Don't Look Now or things like that. And all of these things were shot on film, and it's part of what creates the atmosphere of those films. And I think also I wanted something that didn't feel super contemporary, that, when you're going into these historical things, you can feel that you're going into another time in a way. So yeah, just like filming all these landscapes and all these ancient monuments and stuff, to have that in the kind of the clean, cold light of digital didn't feel right. And I think also just, shooting on film is like a really great tradition, and it's still possible to do. It doesn't really work out that much more expensive than shooting digital at like a professional level. And I think, we should all try and do it more while we still can.
What were the differences that you experience in terms of shooting film in the west of Ireland? Did it present any particular issues?
There were definitely challenges. I mean, in terms of the locations, the main thing was that we couldn't get, to get the film developed and to get it back to look at it, we had to send it to London because there's no labs in Ireland anymore. And if we were in Dublin, maybe you could do that fairly quickly overnight or something, but not from where we were. So we only got to look at the footage every 4 days or so. So, that was nerve-wracking at first because you're waiting days to see if what you got is actually you thought you got. But we were very lucky. We had a great Romanian cinematographer, Diana Vadrascu, who shot it, and everything came out. But other than that, I mean, yeah, we were shooting just in a lot of like wild mountainous locations and stuff. So that creates challenges just for like lugging out all the equipment around and figuring how to get it without like falling into a bog or off a cliff or something, Yeah.
What was most enjoyable thing for you in making the film?
Working with the actors is always one of my favorite parts of the process, and working with someone like Dale Dickey, who plays the American filmmaker, was a real thrill for me because Dale Dickey is one of those actors who you might not know her name, but you definitely know her face. She's a great character actor in Hollywood. She's been in 100 different things, from Winter's Bone to Breaking Bad, and she hasn't had a lot of opportunities to play lead roles or to play characters that are sort of outside of her, the roles she usually gets typecast in. So to give her a really juicy role, and to see what she did with it, to watch an actor at her level, that was one of the highlights for sure. And Judith Roddy, who's from Derry, who plays the other lead character, her assistant, is just as accomplished. So being able to like work in rehearsal with those actors and get their input on it, I'd say that was one of the highlights.
Right. Tell us, because you're in Brooklyn at the moment, in New York, and I'm interested what's next for you. Have you got any ideas or anything in the pipeline?
Yeah, I'm actually shooting another film this summer that's a documentary set in New York. It's another kind of strange documentary essay film that's kind of about the coast of Brooklyn and the past, present, and future of it. So it's going to be dealing with some similar themes in terms of history, and that's I got a Irish Arts Council grant to do that, so that's in the kind of immediate future. And then I've got other ones that are just at the kind of outline or script stage that I'm hoping to do in the future. I'm also really I want to start collaborating with other writers and try to kind of play around with things that are in a little bit more of like a genre or mainstream area and kind of spread out, because I just think it's good to keep trying new things, challenging yourself.
Right. Congratulations on the film again, and thanks a million for taking the time to chat with us, and best of luck with the projects in the future.
Thanks very much.